Hi, this is Nick with 10 Bell Pod, and here's 10 facts on the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith. Davey Boy started wrestling super young. Davey was a lifelong wrestling fan, loving wrestlers like Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks, and this led him to getting into wrestling as soon as he could. Davey started training at 12 years old with Ted Bentley, and by 15, he did his first TV match with ITV's World of Sport. Around 1977 or so, Davey would often team up with his cousin, Tom Billington, aka the Dynamite Kid, way before they started calling themselves the British Bulldogs. The two would be discovered by Bruce Hart from Stampede Wrestling and, the Hart family, and he recruited the two to come over to Canada. Dynamite headed over in 78, and once the younger Davey reached legal age, he joined May of 81. The Bulldogs' time in Stampede Wrestling led to them joining the WWF. They were so good, they were eventually going to get scooped up, but Davey going to WWF was part of Stu Hart selling the territory to Vince. So the Bulldogs with Bret and Jim Neidhart would start out in WWF around March of 85. This is going to lean more opinion, but I'm going to call it a fact. Davey's in-ring contributions are grossly underrated, especially for 80s Davey. Fellow wrestling nerds are quick to give Dynamite a ton of credit for changing what pro wrestling looked like in-ring, but Davey was right there with him. He was doing a lot of the same moves, working just as hard. He just never had the all-time great matches with a tiger mask. The British Bulldogs had a rough breakup. So if you know the Dynamite Kid story, you know about his brutal back injury and just the way he wrestled, catching up to him at a very young age. He was also the one to lead the Bulldogs out of the WWF, and he never wanted to go back. So Davey, perhaps selfishly, but also thinking about his career, his longevity, his money, Davey made a tough decision. Davey made plans behind Tom's back to return to the WWF, and to make it worse, he took with him and trademarked the British Bulldog name. Dynamite and Davey would never speak again. Davey headlined one of the biggest events in wrestling history. Davey always did well for himself in Canada and the US, but in England, he was a megastar. Meanwhile, in '92, WWF was going through a transition period. They were moving away from all the old 80s stars and trying to find the new generation. So ticket sales were down, pay-per-view buy rates were down. So Vince saw an opportunity with Davey to head over to the UK, and that's when he decided to move '92 SummerSlam over to England and Wembley Stadium. While WrestleMania numbers are usually an outright lie, WrestleMania 8 in '92 sold just over 62,000 tickets. SummerSlam '92 would sell 60,000 tickets the week they went on sale. The event ended up drawing over 80,000, with the driving force being the main event with Davey taking on Bret Hart for the Intercontinental title back when the IC title still meant something. Davey worked for ECW. Following Davey's 1992 release from WWF, it was time to get extremely Eastern, when he wrestled 2 matches for ECW back when it was still Eastern Championship Wrestling. December of '92, Davey beat Jimmy Snuka. In January of '93, he beat Mass Superstar, about 3 weeks before he headed off for his first run at WCW. Okay, this is a fact in that it did technically happen, but this is more of a please watch this if you haven't. As part of Davey's Beach Blast '93 match, tagging up with Sting to face Sid and Vader, we got that ridiculous exploding boat short film promo, whatever you want to call it. It's just the height of WrestleCrap. We have a previous video with a clip from the podcast talking about it, but I believe it's on YouTube, and it's something you need to see if you love weird, dumb wrestling stuff. During Davey's second WCW run at Fall Brawl '98, he took a bump that would change his life, if not play a major role in shortening it. The Anvil and Davey were tagging up against Alex Wright and Disco Inferno when Davey took an awkward bump on a trap door that was set up for the Ultimate Warrior's main event entrance into War Games. A trapdoor that WCW allegedly didn't tell Davey about, which is why he took bumps there. Whether it was a miscommunication, negligence, or Davey just missed the memo, the results were very real. This caused a spinal fracture and eventually led to a staph infection that was eating away Davey's spine. Davey would be prescribed painkillers that just weren't working, so they upped the ante to morphine, and thus Davey sadly got addicted to morphine. Also, while in the hospital, Smith received a FedEx from WCW informing him that his contract had been terminated, so, there's that. Davey's last 2 matches would be tagging with his son. After Attitude Era Gene's Davey was released from WWF, he pretty much went radio silent until 2002. The Bulldog was considering coming out of retirement as his son Harry was starting to get into the business. Dave would have 2 matches on May 10th and May 11th of 2002, tagging up with his son in Manitoba, Canada. But any hopes of a comeback would tragically be ended. About a week later, on May 18th, 2002, Davey sadly suffered a heart attack, passing away at the way too young age of 39. For more wrestling history, find Tim Bell Pod on your favorite podcasting app, or find us on YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok.